So welcome, everyone. This is the Thursday, December 8th, 2022 Town of Monroe Planning Board Workshop meeting. Noreen, would you please do the roll call?
Bonnie Franson.
Here.
John Manson.
Here.
Pat Shea.
Here.
Nick Napoli is out this evening. Dylan Penn.
Here.
Robert Garstack.
Here.
He is filling in for Nick Napoli and Louis Rivera.
You. I'd like to point out the fire exits. There is one where you obviously entered from. There are two in front of me, behind you, and then there's another in this direction that goes out to the side of the building. With that, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the new MCC chair to sit in for Ward or the pledge. All right, with that, first project on the agenda is a new project, is a new old project. It's Henry Farm at the intersection of Lakes Road and Camp Monroe Road. Good evening. And then just for the record, state your name, and we're going to have an overview of, we're going to have a 2-hour history of the project.
Well, you don't want that.
Vince Peterzak, engineer.
Jay Monroe, Bluestein, Shapiro, Frank, and Barone, attorney for the applicant.
So, as you're all aware, I mean, I'm familiar with the project, and I wasn't involved with it, but because there had been litigation. But basically, I don't think any of the planning board members were on the board at the time that this was even reviewed. So we definitely need an overview for ourselves. Thank you.
All right. So this project dates back to, I don't know if it's 2000 or 2002, but it dates back to that early, and obviously progressed for a period of time. I'm assuming that the recession in 2008 probably has something to do with some of the delay, but ultimately this project turned into a 115-unit subdivision that included 50 55 and over senior housing. The seeker was completed, an FEIS was filed, and a resolution was adopted, I believe, in April of 2015, granting conditional final approval of the project. Starting in, I think that's when I was hired. I was hired to start processing the approval documents for the project. And some of the matters that had to be completed was, one, we had to form a drainage district. Two, there was a sidewalk waiver that was required from the town board. The planning board did recommend the waiver in its resolution, and there was a lot of open space that was going to be dedicated to the town. I believe a lot of the open space had a lot of the stormwater management facilities on it, so it made sense that the town would take over those lands. I started processing those approvals documents in spring of 2017. End of 16, I had approached the board telling them I was coming in with all these documents. I submitted in the winter of 17 the petition to form the drainage district, I made the request for the waivers, and asked the board to indicate that they would accept the open space. just about simultaneously with them processing these requests and my petition for the drainage district, the board essentially enacted the moratorium law, freezing all approvals, all development, and they did it on the night that I was supposed to be heard on, at a public hearing on the drainage district. So I was a little taken aback. But the moratorium was adopted, I believe, in April of 17, and it included no exceptions. Did not accept approvals with conditional final. It basically accepted nothing. It did have a hardship provision in it that would allow you to come in and try to prove that you did have a hardship, which was defined in the law, and to this day I still don't understand what it meant, but basically we were stopped. We put together and we applied for a hardship exception. The town board ultimately in September of 17 denied our application. At that point, the moratorium was still in effect. I filed on behalf of the landowner an Article 78 proceeding, Supreme Court, to review the determination to deny our hardship exception. I believe the moratorium was finished. It was extended, I think, 4 or 5 times on 3-month periods. At the end of, Bonnie, was it 18 or 19 that the new zoning went into effect? Bonnie?
I want to say it was 2018,
Okay.
because I think I became planning board chairperson in 2019, and it had gone, was it 2018 I became chairperson? So then it was the end of 2017.
It was December 2017.
And then I
that-
became chairperson 2018, so I knew it was in effect.
Oh, so in 18, the new zoning came into effect?
December.
2017,
No.
but the end of,
Oh.
like
It was
November,
yeah, it was
November,
December
December.
2017. And then
Oh.
and then you and I came on the board January of 18.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right. Here we go. 11/20/2017. It's on the,
Okay,
it's in
all
the
right,
general
okay.
code.
At the time that the new zoning came into effect and the moratorium was terminated, we had not gotten a decision on the Article 78. The town at that point took the position that our petition was moot because there was no moratorium for us to challenge. The court agreed with my argument that we had stated what's called a special facts exception, that essentially, boil it straight down, is if we could prove the correct facts, the law allowed us to be considered under the old zoning if we proved a number of elements. One would be bad faith by the planning board, et cetera, et cetera. Those were all issues of fact. During all this time, we were engaging with the town board and professionals to try to come to a resolution of this thing. We were floating different proposals. Some of them looked good. We had meetings. I thought we were going to get it done. It didn't happen. It just went on and on. And just as an aside, our evaluation of when the new zoning came into effect, it would have reduced our 115 units down to, I think, a maximum of 27 units. So we went back and forth, and we've ultimately floated this 70-lot configuration, and we eliminated the 55-plus housing, and we got a positive response from the town board. I will say that the judge was pushing pretty heavily for the sides to get this done. And, this has nothing to do with you, but I do believe that obviously we came to we came to the best agreement is one where everybody leaves a little bit unhappy. We got to that point. So I think that you have been presented with the stipulation of settlement. That was entered
I think
into
we
by the
have
court?
that.
Okay. Right.
And we're all absorbing everything
Right.
still, and kind of understanding,
Okay.
the lay of the land, et
I'll
cetera.
just go brief. So basically, we came to an agreement. We couldn't bind you because you have an administrative duty here to do your job. We all recognize that. But we did come, the town board came to the conclusion that it would agree that this 70-lot subdivision would conform to the old bulk requirements would be applied to this we were allowed to proceed under the old bulk requirements, not the new. So this plan is now before you without the need for any variances. This plan is in conformance with the bulk requirements that have been agreed upon by the town board and the applicant. I might not have said that as clearly as.
Is this still considered a cluster subdivision? Okay, I just wanted to, in as much as I know that the bulk requirements are a result of the cluster, I just wanted to know from a processing perspective, we're
Right.
treating it like a cluster.
Right.
Okay.
I skipped one important thing, and it is part of the approval process for you guys. I think in January, a year and a half, 2 years ago, we had this thing settled. We had it settled. And we came upon 2 letters that were presented to the town board indicating that the Orange County Health Department had closed the town down in terms of issuing any new sewer permits within the Moodna district. We're in Moodna. That was the first time it became clear to us that we could get it didn't matter what approval we got from you guys or from anybody. We weren't building.
Excuse me, Jay, just to clarify, it wasn't Orange County Health Department, it's Orange County Department of Public Works.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Eric Dene involved with this, made it quite clear to me. I had conversations. This was the first time it came clear to us that it didn't matter what settlement we entered into. And that's when it fell apart again. We were able to put it back, and some of the relevant provisions in the stipulation relate to the sewer issue, just so you know. So I am making this into a 2-hour presentation.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, that's why we're here.
Is this helping?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes.
All right, so maybe I'll just address that issue right now. The town board agreed and it's in the stipulation, that if and when we get final approval from you, that approval will remain in effect until such time as sewer capacity is available for this project through Moodna. And there is no need for us to come in for extensions. Just so you know, that is one of the agreements. I think it's paragraph 2. No.
So that once
2.
once it's approved, it doesn't ever expire? Okay.
That was
Whether
part of the
it's-
consideration for us
Yeah.
agreeing to take 45 lots off the table.
So someday, so Moodna may never get capacity, God only knows, I'm just throwing this out there. So you're just in a holding pattern until Moodna gets resolved, or, so related to this, is there the potential for you, if you can't hook into the Moodna, to do your own thing on the site? There's no potential for that?
We looked at this, and from an engineering standpoint, Vince, I don't think we could do a package plan.
Okay.
Doesn't make sense.
So,
Clarify, because I did just look at that one piece, and there is, so it's to remain in effect until such time as the petition of the approval respondents conditional.
Ashley, where are you? Is there a paragraph? number?
Paragraph 2, it's on page 8.
8. I can. Okay.
Also a provision
Also,
in...
paragraph 11 on page 15 explains that in the event the petitioner fails to act with reasonable diligence to satisfy approval conditions and/or reapprovals from other agencies.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
On page 15, paragraph 11.
So I'm still on page, so on
Okay.
page 8, it says, "Or respondents revoke such conditional subdivision approval in accordance with the terms of this stipulation." So is that in 15?
The terms are in, yeah, the terms are on page 15,
Okay.
paragraph 11.
In other words, we can't just sit on our hands.
So no, understanding the sewer is one piece of it that has to be addressed. There's other agency approvals and other things too that the applicant will have to pursue diligently.
Also on page 13.
On the mic.
On page 13J, it does provide that once sewer capacity, we've been advised that sewer capacity is available, we then have a reasonable amount of time to proceed with either updating or getting our outside agency approvals at that time. So that's basically the way, once we get final approval, we have the right to, we're going to wait till Budna gets capacity. Once they get capacity, then we're afforded a reasonable time to update or get our outside agency approvals. And then there is a provision in here that basically allows the approval to be revoked if we don't do specified things. And I think it's fairly expressly in there. So, really, wants to get back in front of you, I think we've made it. And
So when was the stipulation ordered? So what's a time frame within which you just had to get in front of us within?
had to get in front of you, we had to
Within-
make this application within 6 months.
Okay, so that's just a check mark.
That's a check mark.
Okay.
Right. So on page 8, paragraph 5, sets forth what's supposed to happen tonight and immediately after. So it was agreed that we come to you tonight, and within 90 days, 3 months, you are to give us, and I'm on page 9, 1, your initial comments on the amended application. 2, the scope of review of the amendment application the planning board requires to comply with secret to secure. Number 3, the types of consultants necessary to perform a meaningful review of the application. Number 4, a proposed budget for the estimated costs of the consultants. And number 5, any other matters that you deem relevant. So, do you want me to fill in any blanks? Do you guys get a general overview of this?
I'm getting a general overview, so Sean, I know you're just starting a review, so you're not there. Ashley, is there anything from a legal perspective you want to discuss? And then I'm sure we're all probably going to have a whole bunch of just questions, to kind of know.
Well, I think that's why the town insisted that you have 90 days
Yeah.
to sort your way through this thing.
Right. So I think Ashley's going to touch upon procedurally what we would be doing this evening. And then I think after that, we'll ask the questions, and then if there's any resolutions or anything we need to do this evening, we'll do so.
I guess my question would be the 3 months, is that from tonight the 90 days would run? Or it talks about submission, I know you kind of submitted in a few different pieces.
There's 3 months of the submission of the application.
Is it the
I'm willing-
application
I
date?
mean,
I'm
we-
just trying
we
to
can
time
just-
it with planning board meetings, so
Listen,
that
I'm
way.
I'm not going to, if it's 3 months and 2 weeks, as long as we're making.
I think the idea is that you'd be, probably coming to the next, this meeting and then the next two. That way we could the board can flesh out their questions and then ultimately put something in writing to you to address these points.
Are you going to want us on on the next regular meeting agenda? I don't think
this
so.
week. No, but I mean the
No,
next two workshops.
Actually,
Yeah, I think the next workshop,
Vince and I talked about maybe let's just make sure we're on the next 3 workshops. And if you guys aren't ready for us in 30 days, then just tell us.
I
But
think,
I think it would be worthwhile to come back and sort through all the questions.
yeah, I think there's some fundamental maps that might be useful for the planning board, and one of them would be, and you may have created it as part of the whole legal process, but I don't know if there was a map that shows what was approved versus what this is, like one overlaid over the other. Nothing was done like
Well,
that? I can't
you have the approved map.
Right.
We
I
didn't
mean,
do an
don't-
overlay. We didn't do it with an overlay.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
But you have side-by-sides you can do.
Yeah, I'm wondering so is there a way to do an overlay, because you have the old CAD, I would assume, and then not with I don't think with the grading and everything, too busy, but just where the lots and roads were then and where the lots and roads are now,
As
just to
well
see
as
what
the-
was removed.
as well as the limits of disturbance.
Yeah, I think that would be instructive, because I think that's going to then inform the seeker process, because you already went through a seeker process, but how does this change? Is this just simply a reduction, and you're basically within the same limits, or, it's just going to help toward that effort?
Yeah, we're pretty confident that this plan will not show any enhanced environmental impacts beyond what was already reviewed, and in fact will have lesser impacts just about across the board, and that's what we'll show you ultimately in a consistency statement. And we'll start drafting that on our own, and then we can just work through that as we go. So we're reasonably certain we're going to be able to demonstrate that. I mean, basically, I think, and Vince pointed this out to me today, basically the lot area upon which the 55 units for the 50 units for the senior is being eliminated and being replaced by 5 single-family homes. So, I mean, I'm not an engineer, but just common sense would say to me, we're kind of reducing the impact.
Do we have the digital versions of the grading for also the old map? Can we get digital versions of that, like a PDF? Yeah, I think for to planning board, again, to compare. That we don't need an overlay, but one of the things I was thinking about is whether in doing the revised layout, because I remember during the litigation I saw some maps, and there's a lot of grading on some of the lots that has to be done, and ultimately they're smaller lots, and I don't know how much of it's developable, and so we want to create nice lots, good lots, where maybe if you had retaining walls, you would actually get more usable area, or maybe if we moved things slightly, you would get lots that have, let's say, more buildable area on the lot. So not changing the bulk standards, not changing the number of units, but is it possible there's some places that are just better for development? And so I think that's something that we'll want to evaluate, but that also depends, of course, on what's on the site and what's sensitive and whether we can even move anything around.
Yeah, the other thing which was agreed to is that the houses were going to be maximum size of 3,550 square foot, so they'd be no larger than that.
Actually, that was agreed upon in the resolution, not just in the STIP.
The
We
original
agreed upon that
resolution?
I believe it was for the original resolution.
And then, are there a certain number of bedrooms? Because I think we were talking about getting some kind of table.
They're 4-bedroom houses.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't know if we were, so if they were 4 bedrooms before and they're 4 bedrooms now and there are fewer of them, I don't know what the townhouses were, they may not have been 4 bedrooms. But we were thinking some kind of chart that has, wastewater now is, kind of.
Do a new
Sorry? Okay.
I think for purposes of though, and I think Jay alluded to preparing some type of consistency analysis, consistency statement where you could go through all of those
Almost like a
Um,
chart.
potential impacts, yeah.
Yeah.
Disturbance or disturbance to wetlands, just comparing where you were, water usage,
Right.
wastewater usage then versus now.
Right, like, was it X amount of wetland disturbance versus Y amount of wetland disturbance? To me, it'd be like, it'd be nice to see a chart, just right off the bat. They could be different, but even to understand order of magnitude. And maybe we can work on the parameters of what we'd want to see. Because I think we have to kind of go through the EAF form, but we have the new EAF form, we don't necessarily know what the old was. So maybe even we can come up with a chart and then it can be filled out, just knowing what you're putting on the EAF form. Trips, are the trips reduced, traffic trips, et cetera. Because I think that'll help out a lot.
Probably have to go through the FEIS just to
Yeah.
identify all the.
Yeah, I think an objective is to possibly go through the EAF Part 2 at the next workshop, if that's possible, depending on what we get, and start to see, like, what would we be concerned about and what was already evaluated. So what would the concern be, and was it already evaluated, and is there additional information that's needed? Because you just mentioned, as per the STIP, if we need or want to review something in particular, we need to let you know what consultants we're bringing on board. Traffic may not be a full-blown traffic analysis, but there may be a key, we were actually talking about it, there's the potential for a key intersection, like LaRue and School and Lakes, I think had been mentioned. So we don't necessarily need to do a full-blown analysis, but we might need to do a check on something. So, but I think it would help to go through the Part 2 just after we absorb the new plan and say, okay, this is kind of where we'll need additional information. I remember water quality, because of the landfill. I know that there was a lot of testing done, drawdown tests, et cetera. So I'd
Closure plan. Guys monitor.
right, so
All are well tested.
yeah, I remember that. So I don't know over time if that changes. I just don't know. So I'd want to know, are those studies still relevant, or should there be, and does there have to be, because of just time and passage of time, does Department of Health require another test? I don't know the answer to that.
But we'll check.
Okay.
There was two things I neglected. They're just details. There's 2 existing wells on the property that are being dedicated to the town, and the applicant is building a water tower that is going to be dedicated to the town. Right, that water tower was designed to accommodate 220 units. We're going to redesign it now because the maximum number of units that it's going to service is just going to be this part, just this one project. So
I seem to remember looking at some old information that this was potentially going to be a tower that would also help some other part of some other development, so that's not needed anymore?
it's going to be no, was it Carroll Drive or something?
Yeah,
Water
that
district.
sounds
that's,
familiar.
That's basically been abandoned.
Water District 12 that the town currently owns.
Right. So back in the early 2000s, it was relevant that we would put an off-site water main that would run from the tower down to Carroll and alleviate some of their problems. The stipulation says, everybody agreed that basically is a non-issue now, and the parties agreed in the stipulation that that's to be removed from the resolution.
Just to add to that, that's because the town undertook the project by themselves
Right.
for that town water district, so.
Are there rec fees that have been paid or have to be paid?
Yes.
Okay. Let's, we kind of went off. We were started out
far
with
as,
Ashley. Let's go back to
Actually
Ashley.
made the mistake of asking me a question.
So just to get back to the procedure, I think for purposes of tonight, the board can classify the action as unlisted under seeker, declare your intent to be lead agency, and circulate a lead agency I did have one question on the EAF with regards to the water district. I think it just wasn't clear to me how the question was answered, whether the district exists or if the service area is being extended or if it's
Our
a...
district does not exist.
I
Okay,
thought we created that.
No, they froze me.
Oh, okay.
okay, so I guess that question D2C4, it says that a new water district is not proposed, so that should say that it is, and just, you answered some of the subparts, but not all of them.
Actually, the water stipulations, the town has stipulated, not that they'll consider any of those things, they will grant them. They will accept the open space, they will grant the water district, and they will grant the sidewalk waiver. It states that they
Okay, no, I understand,
So,
I just want to make sure
want
that
the
the
board
board
to understand,
understands.
I don't have an issue now going to convince the town board of anything. We've all agreed as part of this settlement that those things are going to happen. And there is no water district there, this will be a new water district.
Okay, yeah, that just
For that,
wasn't, so
yes.
just wanted to
Right.
make sure that was,
And hopefully they can
that is
act on the
clear.
petition I drew up 5 years ago.
But other than that, I think the board can start the seeker process this evening.
We're
All right.
we're happy to stipulate that the 3 months or 90 days runs from a certain, you want to do it from tonight?
Let's do it from the 20th.
Let's say, can we agree that by the third, the 90 days will be by the third workshop after today?
Third workshop after today.
1 month will be February, 2 months will be March, third month will be April.
So by April,
Well,
the
April-
first workshop.
Yeah.
That's actually more than, but that's okay.
We'll stipulate that
That's okay?
That's acceptable
All right,
to us.
yeah.
And if you don't need the time,
If
you
we
know,
don't, if we could do it sooner,
Yeah,
then we
hopefully we
will.
can get it done sooner.
Okay.
March workshop would be the 9th.
March is the 9th?
To February is one, no, I'm sorry,
That's what I'm saying.
to January, to February, to March. March would be, I'm sorry.
March
So we do
9th.
not, March?
March 9th, yeah. Yeah, that, I mean, just because it helps with the holidays. No
Yeah.
one's focusing on this, so, March 9th, okay. Do we need to do a resolution, or, so you offered that, that'll just be in
In the
the
stip.
Yeah,
minutes?
he's record that they, I note that the comments do need to be in writing, so I think that if the board finalizes their, comments, and then typically would tell me to write them up, I could get it to you the next couple of days.
So, with that, this was a type 1 action? 70 units? I know it was, I don't know that it
Unlisted.
is.
It was unlisted before, and I believe it is because the number of units they're going to be they're not going to be connected to.
It's over 10 acres of service.
That's only for non.
Wasn't there in 2002, so I don't remember whether it's
I
unlisted or
believe
not.
it is unlisted
Is it
because it
unlisted?
doesn't reach the number of units.
Okay.
Let me just double check now that you're.
It's 100 units.
It was a type, probably an unlisted, and it was pos decked. Yeah.
Construction of type 1 trigger is 50 units not to be connected to existing public water and sewage, but you're going to be connected to both. So you wouldn't meet the next threshold, then is 200 units, so.
Well, to existing community or public water and sewage system. So the water is considered a community system?
Public water system. Per the DOH.
Are you looking to type this now?
Yeah,
Okay.
just because we send it out with the NOI, we usually
I mean,
say what it is.
at least it'll be a preliminary classification. They've done the full EAF, so that would be required for a type 1, so that's,
We're not
Nothing
in
changes
an
there.
ag district, we're not.
I was trying to think if there's anything that would
Is there
trigger
a
the
Chris
25%.
property? Is there a national register? Let me just check real quick. Because this has gone so long, you don't even know what might have changed. So let me just check something.
if it's next to any parkland and recreation areas.
I don't know that that's a 25% threshold.
Of 10.
Sub 10? Is it? All right, let me just get here.
It's unlisted. It was unlisted,
It was unlisted?
looking at the resolution.
Yeah, I just want to make sure nothing's changed. Let's see, where are we? Should actually be already on here somewhere. Yeah. Usually it'll show an outline. Can always find you from the right here, I think. Yep. So if I just zoom in, because sometimes nothing's popping up as far as a historic site in the vicinity, so that's not a threshold. The solar farm isn't public land, right? You said parkland?
25% is essentially contiguous to any publicly owned or operated parkland, recreation area, or designated open space.
The only thing I don't know if any of these properties around it are PIPC or not. Let me go back here. Now, at some point it is parkland, but well, you know
We'll
what?
double
You
check
know
it.
what?
We're
Let's
gonna
do this.
double check it.
Yeah.
We have plenty of time.
We'll confirm whether it's type 1 or unlisted, but regardless, we're going to coordinate anyway. And you submit a full EAF, so we're covered. Yeah. So with that, subject to confirming if this is unlisted action, I would make a motion that the Town of Monroe Planning Board declare its intent to serve as lead agency for the Henry Farms subdivision. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Noreen? Sorry, George, did you say something? Noreen, speak into the mic. Oh.
I am.
She hasn't begun yet.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Dylan Penn,
Aye.
Robert Garstack.
All right, with that, the motion passes, so we'll start the seeker circulation. I guess we'll take a look at the agencies that were sent, it was sent to previously, and get that going. Because I'd want to know from DEC whether anything's changed. I know for a fact, well, I shouldn't say for a fact, I'm almost like 100% sure that the northern long-eared bat was listed since the time this project started. And so, they may just come back and say the same, don't do any tree clearing within this time frame. But, in particular, I just want to see if anything new pops up. I have no idea. And then the other agencies, of course, will weigh in. So that's the primary thing we need to do this evening. So then I'll open it up to the board members. Anybody have questions or comments? Why don't I start to my left? Bob, anything?
Right now, no.
No? Jeff?
Nothing right now, thank you.
Pat?
No questions.
Dylan?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Who's? No? Oh. Okay. Just real quick, permits. Have all the permits been renewed or anything have to be modified or updated in general?
Yeah, we're going to have to go back to the
Okay. Wetlands, were there DEC wetlands or were they Army Corps? And is the delineation up to date? So that has to be redone?
Take a look.
No, the reason.
A permit, we have a wetlands,
We had a permit.
You have the permit?
I thought we had
is
a
it still
town permit.
valid?
Oh,
The
no,
town
I'm
permit,
talking
right?
about the Army Corps.
That was a nationwide. So
So-
we just did a pre-construction notification back then.
Okay. And does that last for any particular time period? Does it have to get renewed, or how does that work? I know delineations
board's
expire, but I don't know what happens with the permits. Okay, well, we'll have to look into that then.
We'll need an updated town of Monroe wetlands permit for,
That's where some of these maps will help to see what changes, if anything, and whether in fact it does have to, And I know since back then, Army Corps and some of the delineation process, I think, has changed, and what's considered waters of the United States, I believe, has changed a little bit. The method, probably, yeah. So, all right, so something to consider. Okay, so we started the process. We'll get all our comments together and see what information we need. But I think in the meantime, if we could get the PDFs of the old maps, and then one map that overlays the old layout and the new layout, and just the general limits of disturbance.
Right.
Okay.
And lots.
And yes, the lots, the roads and the lots.
Are we in agreement that we will be on the next 3 work session agendas?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have to make a request or anything like that?
No, for certain, the next one, absolutely. And I just anticipate, unless somehow we get things done at the next one in terms of our checklist is we have to give you a list of studies, a budget, et cetera, and the consultants that we might want analyses from. So I think that's our next, right, piece that we have to do. And I think part of that is why we want to look at the EAF Part 2 to see what, if anything, needs to be updated. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Happy holidays. Thanks. Have a good one.
Good night.
Did you sign? Did you sign? I may have a well, no, so I actually had a digital version at some point, but it was corrupt, so it went halfway through, and then. Okay. Yeah, and if there's a digital version, that's fine.
Okay, you don't need do you need a hard copy, Sean?
Well, how many
Not at this
hard
point.
copies are there?
This is
One? How many did you have, or there's just one whole hard copy? Okay.
And he wants to know, Ashley said she wanted a hard copy.
Well, my only concern is we'll have to check the digital, because I know there was a version, but when I opened it, and I don't remember if it was the FEIS or DEIS that it was having. That's both. That's both, okay. You know what, I would like a copy. Okay, if you want a copy, ask for a copy.
I'll think
He
about
has
it.
to print.
I'll have a copy. Anybody else? And the Dropbox, okay.
I have a box at the office that I believe everything's in there.
I guess if you're
I'll reach
making
out to
one, just
Vince.
if you could make one for me too, then thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
Yep.
I think with that, the meeting's adjourned. Oh. All right, next item on the agenda is Mountain View Shul. I don't know, I say shul. Do you say shul or shul? I say shul. Unofficial version. What's the official way to say, is it shul or shul?
Whatever is getting faster approved.
Oh.
Good answer.
Can't ask the Irish.
Did you pass that on to that? Pass that on? Oh, he did, okay, great. All right, names for the record, that's okay, I'll hold on to it. Names for the record, and then where we are at this point in the process.
John Queenan from Lankin Tully, engineer for the applicant. With me tonight is Isaac Walter, the applicant for this application. We're before you for a continued review of a proposed shul at 277 Mountain View Drive. I think the last items that we had was the board completed a site visit of the property a month or two, maybe 2 months ago. Since that time, we've updated the plan to address what were Sean's comments at the time. We added a landscaping and a lighting plan. We adjusted some of the retaining walls, and we incorporated the comments that we did receive from those site walks, from the board. So at this point in time, that's where we're at with it. We're hoping tonight to further along either secra or possibly scheduling the required public hearing for this. I feel like.
All right, so with that, did you have comment, Sean?
So the applicant's updated water supply perspective to note the existing 2-inch water line that serves the site from the village of Cary Joel. That will be routed underneath the proposed retaining wall and serve the building. One of the bigger questions with the potable water is based on the size of the building and the amount of stories, is it appears that sprinklers will be required. So, first question is the 2-inch line going to be able to support sprinklers of the proposed building? So, to answer that,
Yeah, no, the applicant is having a sprinkler company. They're in the midst of doing the design. They believe the 2-inch is satisfactory, but we're going to get that confirmed. And if we have to upgrade the size, we certainly would.
okay. Next, with regards to grading, there's new retaining walls. So at the site walk, there is a retaining wall there that's going to be removed. A new one's going to be put near its place, and then there's going to be one run along we'll call it the village of Cary Joel's, basically that boundary to the northeast. The wall is shown right on the boundary line, with some improvements shown within the village. So just question of constructability, whether or not they would need an easement in order to install that retaining wall, as well as propose some of the improvements shown on the adjoining lot.
So is that retaining wall being shown where did the stairs go then into the village, over the
Yes.
boundary?
That set of stairs goes into the village.
Okay,
We probably might end up removing those, as we've been talking to the neighboring condominium, who does not appear to be interested in having a connection. So we'll most likely be taking those off and just closing the wall and using the existing pedestrian connection that's to the north.
over here,
Correct.
okay. So this one will go away,
Yep,
but this one will remain to allow that connection if necessary.
correct. And we'll keep the sidewalk in the same configuration to the crosswalk. We'll just eliminate the stairs.
Is that a definite, or you're examining whether you're going to remove it? Or you're in all likelihood going to remove it?
All likelihood, 99% it's going to be removed.
Okay.
So, but to add to that, are you going to be able to get an easement for the construction of the retaining wall?
I don't think we're going to need one. They're fill walls, and as typical in the village, you can go right up to the line without encroaching over. So,
So to Sean's point, so you were able to construct the retaining wall without having to go on the other side of it? Okay.
it was the reverse. If we were a cut wall and we needed to go the other
Yeah.
way, yeah, then we couldn't. But
But it's a fill wall?
Yep.
Okay.
And kind of moving down the page versus sewer, there's an existing septic system site that's going to be removed. They're proposing the extension of the sewer up Mountain View Drive, which will need DEC as well as DPW approval, since it's within. I just asked that the survey be extended down to understand all the utilities that might be in the way of the proposed sewer down Mountain View Drive.
when you say remove for the septic, I'm removing the tank and the D-box. I wasn't removing the field.
So when I spoke to John O'Rourke at the site meeting, I just suggested at a minimum the tank be removed.
Okay.
Although on the plans, it's noted that all absorption trenches, the D-box and
Yeah,
the
'cause
septic tank is to be removed.
That was the note he made, and I said, I think we could leave the field, it would be fine. So-
Agreed.
Okay.
Yep. I made a couple comments with regards to the lighting. It didn't look like the Isolux curves were labeled on there, so that'll have to be added. I did send the landscaping plans to Karen for review. I haven't seen anything from her yet. And then I had a couple things with regards to zoning. It looked like the floor area ratio calculation was off a little bit, as well as it looks like there's only 35 parking spaces provided.
On the FAR, the FAR is actually correct, it's misguided when it's labeled. So the rabbi's residence, I'm saying it's 2 floors, but the total is the 32. It's not 3,200 times 2.
I think I just added, just did whatever's in that calculation, but, we could revisit that.
Okay.
And then the 35 parking spaces were provided, where 37 are required.
Yeah, because we have 35 for the shul, and then I labeled 2 for the house.
Or the 2 for the house.
I got them labeled on the driveway, which, if you scroll.
How do you access it?
Driveway from.
A new curb cut?
No, it's the existing driveway to the house.
Okay. I don't recall that one being out there, but, okay.
I want to make sure we all understand. So there's 2 curb cuts currently, one that leads to the house and another one that goes to the existing shul that's behind there.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Ashley, do you have comments?
So for purposes of seeker, there were a couple more things I think that you were still waiting on. Will-serve letter from the village regarding the water, architectural review details. As part of your architectural review.
The will save letter I have, I will email
Okay.
tomorrow.
We have elevations of the building? Are they designed already? Okay.
Submitted floor plans, and you have the elevations now? Okay.
This board does have its architectural review board authority for this application, so that's something you'll want to see as far as the design of the building. They did submit the lighting and landscaping. I believe that was, you were waiting on that in order to submit it to Orange County Planning Department. So if you want to make that referral. As far as the landscaping plan goes, I know that Karen's reviewing that. Did you take into consideration the tree law as far as any trees being removed and the replacement requirements?
Not specifically, but
Taking in, okay.
Just review that where the proposed retaining wall kind of 90-degree bend is, going from east-west to north-south.
that upper corner.
Well, it would really be the lower corner of the retaining wall.
And if
Yeah.
not, then just to make a note that, there's not any trees being removed. That's basically it. There are some waivers that have been requested from the special use permit requirements, some dealing with the landscaping, so you'll need to, review those at some point. I'm sure you want to hear from your landscape architect on that plan.
So the floor plan I have at this point, you submitted, I think, back in May or so. Does it look the same as what you see here on the screen? That's what we had received. Still the same? Okay. So we just need the elevations. What else did we need to submit to forward to Orange County for a GML?
What's it said that you were waiting for the lighting and landscaping, which has been submitted, so if you want to go ahead and do that, or you want to wait until you have the architecturals?
I think we can go ahead and send it out to Orange County. That's fine. Everybody okay with that? Seems reasonable to send it to Orange County for review? Yeah? Okay. Yes? Good. And so the other request was the public hearing. I don't think we have to do a neg deck before we open a public hearing for this, right?
No, it's not a,
So do we all think it's all right at this point to open a public hearing? We don't have to close it, if there's still information and we're still reviewing it, but at least we can, if there's any comments, we'll get comments from the public. Thoughts?
Now is probably a good time, though.
Yep. Yes? Everybody's good? Okay, should I make a resolution that will,
motion to schedule a public hearing for whatever your,
when's our next regular meeting? 17th of January? Okay, so I will make a motion that we,
Martin Luther King, or maybe
oh, they may push Thurs. Is the schedule up on the website? What next year's hours, but has the town board approved theirs?
No, well, they might have done it Monday night. I did go back and look.
Oh, do you know, George, if it's posted on the town's website?
They didn't come back to, if they approved theirs, they would have told me I had a conflict. And went through all of them already.
theirs to the 8th.
I don't know. You said it was on the agenda for the last meeting?
you could do it for the 17th, and then before your meeting on the 20th of this month, you could confirm. And if it needs to be rescheduled, you could just do it at that meeting.
Do they have the attachments right on the agenda? Motion, I'm just going to check, see real quick if it's. It'll be January 3rd and 9th.
Town board.
That's, I think, yeah, that's town board, so we're not gonna, were you looking at January or February? January. Right, so we're good then, right, for the 19th? Okay.
17th.
So we're meeting the 7th?
17th.
17th, okay, thank you. Okay, so with that, would someone make a motion that we hold a public hearing for Mountain View Shul to be held on January 17th, 2023 at 7 o'clock or soon thereafter?
So moved.
Oh, 6 p.m., sorry.
So moved.
Pat moves. Second? May I have a second?
Second.
All right, Noreen? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Bob Garza.
All right, so with that, the motion carries, and we will open the public hearing at our January meeting. And then, in the meantime, you'll get us that information, the elevations, and the letter to serve. And we'll wait to hear from Karen Arndt on the landscaping, right? Okay. Anything else we need to cover? Any comments from the board members? Anything else? No? No? Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Sure, you're gonna have it early.
Still here? Next item on the agenda is Sherry Torah, 49 Larkin Drive. Where are we at this point in time? You were in front of the ZBA, right?
I was retained at 7:05 tonight to represent this. Joel Mann apologized. He had another engagement, so I will cover for him. I think he had sent the board a summary letter back on November. This is what he told me. He said they went to the,
22nd.
they went to the ZBA. They received all their variances, and they are back before the planning board now, doing some changes to the site with regards to traffic circulation. That's the way I understand it. He said that the board had a site walk, I guess.
Just Joel, Ben, and I.
Okay, all right. And yeah, he's got this plan that he put together. He highlighted the area, I guess, in terms of buses and taxis to try to separate the two. And we've received Sean's comments. And report.
Okay. So, Sean, why don't you go through your comments?
So this is the second time that it's been back since the ZBA. That was right after Joel, Ben, and I had met, so there hadn't been an updated plan pursuant to our discussions at that time. The plan's been reflected to update to show where the bus will drop off for the girls' school, between the Jersey barriers and the school, as well as the taxi drop-off area will be where it's labeled, kind of along the entrance road to both schools. While Ben and I and Joel were out there, Joel brought to our attention some modifications that they wanted to make to the boys' school for site circulation, kind of to I guess it'd be the southeast corner of the building, as well as what Ben and I observed as kind of chaotic drop-off time for both the boys and girls' school. So where they have that hatched gray, Ben had asked that be paved to make it improved, or just an improvement to the overall site since it's existing gravel. After reviewing this plan, I'm wondering if there is a better solution, maybe to curb that area, to confine the cars more so that there's a clear path of where vehicles should travel, rather than just a wide open area of pavement where buses, cars, and heading in different directions aren't running into one another. So that's just something for John to consider, keeping in mind that there also is the bakery, the Matzah Bakery nearby, that also accesses the site. Then with regards to the improvements to the school, the boys' school drop-off area, they're adding some additional fencing to keep vehicles from traversing around the school, with the exception of the buses and maybe some employee vehicles. One of the gates was only 15 foot in length, so just verifying that fire code width. Really, that's the extent of my comments to this point. I think John's help, they can figure out some solution to that area between the girls' school and the boys' school, which was really the main traffic concern and site circulation concern.
But this is going to be a 3-year, I think, is it a 3-year permit? Okay.
We're already halfway into.
Already, okay. Yeah, so I think it's the weighing and balancing, because obviously the So the trailers, I think, are supposed to go away once the other school gets its certificate of occupancy, but that hasn't happened, and that was an explanation. So on the one hand, it has to be permanent enough to be protective and safe. On the other hand, you know, those trailers should go away. So I'm just, you know, that's something to talk to them about, again.
So I think regardless of whether the girls' school is there or not, I think those modifications to that part of the site are warranted with solely the boys' school.
Okay, okay.
I also thought Joel had suggested perhaps last time that once the trailers go away and the girls' school is in effect, that there'll be some additional building on that site to enhance for the boys. I thought that
I don't recall that, but
I know he said that they don't need as much room for the boys because often at an older age they go off to other schools, but where the girls are schooled much more locally to the village. But there was still a suggestion that I have a feeling that when the trailers go, that we'll see an additional structure being proposed there, and then that curbing and that bus route will just serve to
that building.
that
yeah.
building,
Right.
if and when it happens.
Ashley, did you have comments?
A couple of additional, so now that there are the two parcels involved, they'll need an updated owner's endorsement from the boys' school parcel, the SBL 2121.2. It's owned by a different corporation. And then also the plan should be, they should clearly label the two different parcels by lot number and where it has the owner's information on the actual plan to make sure you're identifying both properties and both owners.
Okay. Board members, I'll start over here. Dylan, do you have any comments?
None.
Pat?
Nada.
Jeff?
No.
Bob?
No.
Okay. So I guess at this point in time, there's nothing to do other than to get updated plans. We don't have to hold a public hearing. ZBA already has done any public hearings anyway, so I don't know that we need more input on that. I think that's it. Did Joel have any comments or questions that he left you with?
No, he
No?
just, did this go to planning
Orange County Planning?
tomorrow?
I was waiting for this last submission.
Okay.
Oh, so.
Orange County Planning, that'll be the one thing that'll happen between now and the next meeting. Okay? That's it. Thank you. You're a good listener.
He says the same thing. Have a good night.
Good night.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
So one additional thing before you do get to the minutes, I wanted to see if the board tonight would consider for the Homeland Towers application a motion to agree to extend the shot clock to February 21st. Currently it's set to expire at your next meeting, so I'd prefer to have it, agreed to beforehand. That way the agreement can be signed beforehand.
Okay.
So it would just be a motion to extend the shot clock to February 21st, 2023, and authorize the planning board attorney to sign tolling agreement regarding the same.
Would someone like to make that motion?
I will make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Noreen?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. You know what? Let's wait with the minutes till next. Yeah.
We only have, I think, Homeland's the only one on.
Is that all we have next week?
I believe so.
Yeah, so let's do it. Well, yeah, I know. All the dates are falling strange this month. It's messing me up. Okay. We'll do that then.
And then you'll have the 15th, because I printed them and some of the comments, the spell.
Oh, I'll have the other
It's done.
minutes.
Yeah, I finished it today, but it wasn't in time to get to anybody.
So as another item, not that it's on the agenda, but for Pilati Village, we need to get all the comments consolidated and then look at if there's any other additional analyses that were needed as a result. But I think we need to I think we need to talk about what we're expecting. They gave us all this big package of all the information they've submitted to date. But do we want them to put a narrative together in the form of an EAF Part 3? Because I thought we went through the EAF Part 2 already. So they basically should be responding to anything that was brought up in the EAF Part 2 by explaining the studies that were done and what the conclusions were. That was my expectation. Does that make sense? Yeah, because we're not supposed to write the EAF Part 3. That's really on them, correct? Okay. So perhaps, Sean, you can speak to Mike Morgante, because I know he wanted to get on the agenda, but I think it's a little premature, only that, again, I think we need to figure out what additional, if anything, information is needed. Plus, we did get some water, I think, quality information in recently, right? Were there any issues or no?
To be honest, I haven't gone through that in full detail, but Frank Getchell is also looking at that, so.
Okay.
As part of his review for the quantity and quality of the water, so.
Okay. One of the things that I looked at, we have a resource at our office called Global Mapper, and I wanted to see where the wastewater treatment plants were discharging, because there were comments on the record about Pine Tree Lake, and Pine Tree Lake, and then Blythia, I don't know how to pronounce it, Blythia?
Lively,
Blithely?
I believe is the,
That lake. And we have one wastewater treatment plant on the one side and another treatment plant on the other side. It looks like, at least from a topographic perspective, that the one that is serving the senior building, that's discharging to a wetland, and it goes actually then in a southerly direction. That there's some kind of topographic, like a little hump, that directs it away from the lake. However, Pine Tree, that is entering a tributary with a whole bunch of other tributaries, including tributaries that are serving the golf course, that goes to Pine Tree.
So my understanding is the one on the northern side, the one serving the non-senior homes, that's discharge is actually pumped across Harriman Heights Road and is discharging at basically the same location as the one on the east side.
Okay, so that's not a separate discharge point that goes to Pine Tree. They're somehow connected?
So they're not connected. The outfalls are separate, is my understanding, except they're discharging at essentially the same location, right next to each other.
So they're both discharging toward that side, but I don't
And
think
not
they're actually
towards-
discharging toward Blythia, because I don't think that,
I think eventually they might make it there, but my understanding is there's a large overland flow before it gets to Blythia.
yeah, when we did and I'll share it, when we did a watershed map, it shows that there's a divide
Okay.
that, again, just topographically now, I want to go out into the field to actually see what's
Sure.
there, because it's one thing to say that it's topographically divided, but who knows? Maybe it actually does. I don't know whether, though, ultimately the flow, if it's entering subsurface, does it somehow migrate? I don't think so, but I don't know. But the people were asking about it. So then it doesn't go to Pine Tree. The only
Understanding
thing,
is it would not.
okay, if it is in fact discharging to the east, or to the east.
Northeast?
By the senior, by where the proposed senior is, right?
Correct, right,
Okay. All right, because I know that, again, that was a big concern
right.
that was raised. All right, so I think, should we put Pilati, not to look at plans, et cetera, but just to have any comments, to provide the applicant any more comments that we want addressed or any more information we need for the next meeting?
First,
I just want to make sure that he knows what we want in terms of additional, like, so the question about the drainage,
Okay.
things like that, I want to have a list. So I don't know if we have to put them on an agenda just to talk about it, or if we can submit comments to Noreen and we can, or to you all, and we can somehow compile them. I don't know if we need a formal agenda item or not.
It probably makes sense to have them. That way, if they're on the agenda, Mike could be here, and if he has a question about one of your comments, you could just hash it out then, rather than the back and forth.
Okay. So let's tell Mike if he's available. I mean, I think we should put them on that agenda anyway, whether Mike is or isn't available, so that we could just make sure we have a comprehensive list to button it up, and then give it to Mike, and then he can start putting the EAF Part 3 together. Okay? Thank you. And so we'll hold off on the minutes for this evening, and I think that's it. So may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.